All right, we are recording and we are live. Hey Thomas, thanks for joining today. How you doing?
Hey, Major. Good. Good to see
Good,
you.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go over how to build your legacy and make it work for you rather than you do the work for it. What I'm gonna do is we're just gonna go through for about 20 minutes. I've got Thomas and a few others join us, some more join in a minute.
Okay.
But we'll take questions at the end and rock and roll, man. I've got my multi-million-dollar setup today. I'm on a step ladder outside on the back deck. So we're we are rocking and rolling, baby. We're getting a dishwasher installed, so I had too loud. So we're gonna do it this way. But
Good.
awesome. Well, thanks, man. All right, I'm gonna jump right into it. And when we get to the question portion, I'll unmute everybody and you guys ask your questions, type them in the chat, and let's
Okay.
rock and roll.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right, so hey everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Major Hillard. I'm an international best-selling author and founder of MH Estates Capital Partners, where we make your money work for you in purchasing mobile home parks with a heavy value add. Today we're going to be going over, exactly how we're going to learn how real estate almost killed me and almost killed our family, and how I know there's so many other investors like yourselves and others watching that have had the same issues and want to learn. There's got to be an easier way. There's got to be an easier way for passive income, and I know we have the best product for that. And we're going to go over that here in a little bit. Thanks for joining me. We're going to move on right ahead. So real quick, myself, I'm Major Hillard. My wife and I, we've been investing for over 12 years in mobile home parks. We've owned and operated well over 1,300 mobile home pads, as well as sold over 1,100 homes. We have a dealership, management company, and our no finance company where we're financing homes as well. And that's a real hidden cost we're going to go over into. But we're going to go into that. And also, so we purchase mobile home parks, and we with our partners, we acquire portfolios of heavy value add mobile home parks. And what that means is there's infill of vacant lots, there's selling and occupancy of vacant homes, there is mismanagement, there's value add components, there's infrastructure and maintenance that needs to be updated, and just overall cost sag that we can do to lower our operational costs as we have them. And the best way to think of mobile home parks, and I know it's a hot niche and how to wrap everyone's head around it, is essentially apartments, multifamily apartment units, but it's horizontal. It's not vertical. It's horizontal. And what's best about it is that you're renting the land and not the unit. There's multiple different ways to do your structural for managing these communities, but if you do it correctly, the most optimal way is essentially you're owning the land and all these units are spread. The tenants own the units, they maintain the units, and it really cuts down your costs and your operational expenditures. We've got a case study we'll go through for, and then how we do our 3 action step plan on how anyone can get started and how really the benefits outweigh anything else in terms of rental real estate or income producing real estate because of the time management and the operational expenditures you're going to have. So to kind of give you a little background on myself, I grew up in a real estate investment household. My father invested in residential homes. He did long-term holds, he did rentals, and then installment sales with seller financing. But growing up, there was always an issue or always some kind of thing going on that really stressed my father out because he'd be missing uh, football games or having to leave dinner tables in the middle of the night. We have tenant calls just on stop. And the stress that took out on him, seeing that firsthand and going to the houses myself. I mean, growing up, I didn't have a babysitter. I always went to the job site. So I was ripping up carpet, putting down vinyl, putting Luan, painting walls, patching, seal plates, porches, roof, you name it, I've done it. And with that, I've learned a lot and I appreciate that. But going first through firsthand and seeing the amount of stress and amount of time it took away from our family that he had, I know that he really wished to be with us more. I realized there had to be a better way. That I didn't want it to fall into the same trap. I wanted to be the lazy landlord. I want to put it in, do my investments, set it up, and collect the checks. I don't want to be hands on. And going through that experience, I fell into those issues where I thought I had my first real case of accomplishment to get to that passive income goal. So on my journey during college, I needed had to get into commercial real estate. And so this is 2009, right in the middle of the 2008 recession. Junior in college, and I went and started working for a commercial firm. And that's another story. It took me 10 days of badgering calls until they would hire me, showing up. And they threw me into a Section 8, 228 apartment complex unit in Suffolk, Virginia that had no management for 6 months. And they said, they have 2 weeks to get all the leases signed, rents collected, and place looking well. And that was how they would hire me. And I ended up doing really well on that. That's how I cut my teeth. Graduating from that after college, I wanted to invest myself. So naturally started working my way into apartments. So I bought an actual 20 unit apartment complex in downtown Richmond, Virginia, as well as some duplexes and some single family. However, the time it took from me to deal with these units, and now you'll say, and I've had people say, well, Major, just hire third party management. Well, management, the key model of management, and I know this from being and managing well over 500 units during it for the commercial brokerage. The key motto for management companies is to do a good enough job to not get fired, but a crappy enough job that the owners want to sell. And that's the main goal of a management company, is to acquire the property they manage. And you can hire, and it actually I hired multi management 3 different times, and they within 60 days killed 6 months of worth of work, and leases and income and operational expenses went high. I call them yellow book managers, where back then yellow books were really prevalent. They're literally, if there anything went wrong, they open up the yellow book, say a plumber, open up the first name, bam, that's who they hire. They don't care what the price is because they get paid no matter what, whether the property is doing well or not. They get paid a commission based on a percentage of rents that come in, and whether or not the expense is higher or lower than what it should be doesn't matter. Not my job. Just get it fixed. And so seeing that and experiencing that and then owning myself, my time, I was working really hard. I was working worse than when I had 3 jobs. So that ventured into, I found this book called Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs. It was in an actual cardboard box in my father's attic. I was flipping through the books, trying to do anything I can to get out of this situation, because I realized, I can't do it all myself. I can't hire because they won't do a good enough job as I do. The expenses are mounting. It's just tough. It was eating away. The stress was unmountable, and I felt like I was going to die. Like I was going to make it. I remember my fiance, now my wife, told me at the time, she says, Major, you're working harder now than when you had 3 jobs, back when I was doing security and being a commercial broker as well and leasing agent. So had to be a way. And I found this book. It was like a godsend. It was Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs, and it talked about flipping mobile homes. And at the time, the book said you only need $1,000. Well, I had $1,000. Let me go try it. Maybe this guy's full of it. Let me go try it myself. Read the book, went out, bought a home the very next week, sold it on installment, used a down payment to buy 2 more homes. So within 4 months, I had 5 homes producing a little over $3,500 a month in cash flow, which allowed me to quit my other jobs. And then I focused and said, why am I doing 4 or 5 homes? Why not just do all the homes at one time? And looking around at a mobile home park. And so that led me into a natural progression into mobile home parks. And so within 6 months, I ended up buying my first mobile home park. So having not only 28 apartment complex units under my portfolio that I own personally, and then now a mobile home park, the the light was clear. I mean, it was like a beam that shined down on me. It was clear. The time and the management and the overall cost to maintain and manage a mobile home park vastly beat multifamily by a tenfold. And the reason being is that the tenants own their homes, whereas in multifamily, they're renting. So you have to maintain all of that maintenance all the time. And when you look at your expenditures for all the leaks, issues, electrical issues, HVAC units, fixtures, and just general maintenance, it really is not, there's not a difference really between that and mobile home parks, but it's a lot less stress, a lot less management. Because of that, your management fees go lower. There's other tax benefits with mobile home parks. And that, once seeing that clear as day, that number one, I had a lot of time back. I could be with my wife and children and grow our portfolio, and a lot less stress with greater income and better tax benefits. It was hands down clear. So I sold all of my multifamily and went straight into mobile home parks. And that's $1,500 investment, which was $1,500 after reading that mobile home park flipping book, Deals on Wheels. led us to a journey to build well over a $40 million portfolio of mobile home parks. And we've never looked back. We absolutely love them. Amazing people, beautiful people. We changed communities within a few months. The returns are astronomical, and the management and ease of life is our preferred way to go. So again, going over the hidden agony. So when it comes to rental real estate, especially with multifamily residential, there's a lot of maintenance, and a lot of people understand is that with mobile home parks, right? It's a horizontal, basically multifamily, and the tenants own their homes. Well, the multifamily, it's all stacked, it's all vertical. So they're stacked vertically and horizontally. So if one unit has a water issue, it's not affecting that one unit, it's affecting units below it, to the side, or possibly above, depending on where the pipe's located. Same thing with a fire. If you have a fire or some kind of hazard, it's going to affect the units around it. Then you have to go through insurance. You have to evict the tenant, or the tenant has to leave. You have to pay for storage. You have to get it fixed. And then you got to go through insurance to get that reimbursement, which can take months. So you're down months and months of income, not only for one, but the surrounding units as well, because now you have to renovate those units as well. When it comes to mobile home parks, it's just one unit because they're spaced out. We don't even own it. And if we did own it, I can replace that unit with a brand new home within 2 weeks. And then I can deal with insurance after the fact, because we always have reserve to buy these homes cash if we need to. But just hands down, you're not losing really any income. You can put a tenant in for a motel or a hotel for 2 weeks if needed, move your stuff out. But seriously, having that just that one component was huge to understand. And again, with not maintaining the homes, we're essentially leasing ground like an RV park. So anything below the ground surface, so the water lines, your sewer lines, your electrical lines, street lights and roadways, that's it. That's all we maintain. Now, if there's a well, we maintain that as well, but that is it. With multifamily, you've got way more to deal with. And so when you look at, we're basically leasing land, but we're giving affordability to these families. And we're by far the most affordable housing you can have in any market. And it just is hands down was a way for us to go. And then we realized too that there is a bottleneck on growing with multifamily, because you're going to be over leveraged, and a lot of people, and because there's so much competition, the pricing on these multifamily went astronomically high. It went across the board on everything, but a lot of these investors now are playing chicken with current bond rates, and when those rates go up, or the federal rates go up, or 10 years or 30 years go up, they're actually hedging the market and betting themselves. They're playing chicken with the market, and I don't like that. Where mobile home parks, it's the only asset, all right, only asset that every year there is more demand than supply. And what I mean by that is that the demand for affordable housing vastly surpasses every year, and the supply of them actually goes down relatively to renovate or development of new communities year over year, because a lot of these parks are mismanaged, and they're sold to be redeveloped into multifamily, parking, storage, industrial, or retail centers. And so there's actually a limited supply. Now, there is a lot of development in certain states, but the development does not outweigh the redevelopment to take away supply. So we have a lot of supply and demand. So with the less supply and higher demand, prices skyrocket. And we are just the hot commodity now. Where 10 years ago when we were starting out, no one really wanted to touch it. But once COVID happened, the kind of cat got out of the bag. So we went over this a little bit here, but we have a 4-tier system, which makes us a little different than other operators, and why we're so successful. So we have our acquisition fund, which is MHSA's Capital Partners, where we have a consortium of investors that we've poured our cash together, and we go buy these value add and these other manufactured home communities or mobile home parks. So we like to say we buy parks, but we sell communities. And I don't consider a community is stabilized until it's over 90% occupancy, and it's somewhere that I would be happy to live with my family. But we're not slumlords. We're in the business of getting rid of slumlords. In fact, that's one of our missions, is to get rid of all slumlords in the US. But we're in the passion of turning around entire communities, having it stabilized. And we realized early on that when the tenants are happy, they pay more. And when they pay more, the returns are greater. So it actually benefits our investors to have our tenants have the best experience they can have with the most affordable price that they can afford, that we can get in the market, that's as max profitable for us, gives us the great returns and these great pops on the equity on the back end when we sell. And a lot of people have it backwards where they'll just buy it, not do any improvements, jack the rents up, and they're really taking advantage of the backbone of America. These hardworking people, the blue collars, the servicers, the janitors, truck drivers, teachers, healthcare workers, hospitality workers, they are the core component of this country, and they have just been taken advantage of. And we're in here saying, hey, we're here, we're going to help, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We redevelop, we clean it up. We're very proud of what we have. It's very clean, safe, family friendly community. And in return, tenants actually come to us wanting to pay more. They're literally saying, take my money, take more, because I love what you're doing. Their house goes up in value as well. So it's increasing the value of their home as well. In fact, Urban Land Institute, ULI, for the last 2 years, ran studies, multiple studies, and show that manufactured homes appreciate at a higher rate than stick-built homes. So think about that. That whole stereotype, the Dave Ramsey stereotype that they go down appreciate, it's all baloney. The demand for it's so high and the supply of available homes on the market so low, even with manufacturers pumping out homes after homes every week, that these homes are appreciating. These used 80 home, 1980s, 1990s, where originally you could buy them for $3,000, $4,000. They're now selling between $30,000 to $40,000. The demand has just skyrocketed. And so we're seeing a really shift, especially with the inflation that's happened and the tariff. We're seeing a huge shift of affordability, and everyone's now focusing on affordability, and we've become mainstream. So we have our acquisition fund. The other thing is we have our management company. Our management company has been around. I've been working on it since day one. My wife Bonnie has been working with me. We have multiple managers for each regional sector. And so 12 years ago, we started working out on ourselves, and we started hiring managers on site. And so we have a 3-tier system. So each community that we acquire in the park, our MH Estates Capital Partners Fund portfolio, each community has an on-site manager, meaning that they're on-site, that they're eyes and ears, they're giving out notices, they're showing homes, they're engaging with leases, they're marketing, they're actually pounding the pavement and getting those units sold or leased. Then we have a regional, which oversees all of our on-site managers within a particular region, and then they come to us in-house. So we have a 3-tier system. It allows for greater flexibility, a lot more hands-on checks and balances, but allowing us to scale at a great rate without losing that hand-on experience, that hand-on renovation, that hand-on management, which can get away. And we realize we do it in-house because it's way more efficient. We can keep our costs down, and we actually care because we have skin in the game. If you go third party, they don't have skin in the game. They're just there to pump out fees, and they just hire whatever Joe Blow. And it just, we've seen it happen time and time again. In fact, we've had many communities that we've sold, and I've approached the buyers, and they actually want to sell to it at a discount because they mismanage it, and it's just a lot of work done. And then we also have our dealership. So our dealership will actually, in each state that we invest in, we have a dealership license, and that allows us to purchase manufactured homes straight off the assembly line to be put on vacant pads within all of our communities, as well as sell all of these homes. So in each state, if you sell more than 5 homes annually in each state, again, state by state, usually it's 5. If you sell more than homes, that you have to have an actual dealer's license. Otherwise, you're in violation of the Department of Revenue or licensing agency for that state. So that allows us to sell these homes at free. We don't have to depend on a third party or a dealer because they have markups of between 30 to 70% markups. So we're able to buy these homes wholesale directly off the assembly line, exactly how we want. And we have 3 preferred models that are tried and true. We've sold well over 120 new homes that these tenants are proven to like, and exactly the color scheme, the layout, everything. Allows us to rinse and repeat. We don't rely on third parties. It keeps our costs low, and we can renovate and turn these units around very quickly. And lastly, we have our finance company that will help finance the sale of these homes to our tenants. We do use other servicers, but we have the option to finance to our tenants if need be. So that's the 4-tier vertical system. We have our partnership, we have our acquisition fund. We already have management on lock. We have our dealership on lock to move these units in to fill up the vacant spaces for our partners' portfolio, and then financing arm as well to help sell and finance the sale of these homes relatively quickly. And as we spoke about earlier with the recession recession resistant assets are recession resistant because the supply is extremely high every year. And no matter what the saying goes, no matter whether whether the economy is doing well or the economy is doing bad, affordable housing is definitely needed. It doesn't matter. And we're the most affordable thing you can get. And people have called and said, Major, that's not true. What about extended stay? Well, do the numbers. On extended stay, you're looking at even $120 a week, right? You're looking at $480. Well, the average lot rent in Southeast and Southwood Mess, where we invest, is around $300, and you don't even and you own the home, whereas a more extended stay you don't. So, and we hedge it against inflation with our escalations. We increase our rents annually to keep pace with inflation, as well as cover any expenditures that increase. But filling up vacancies as well and getting additional incomes or streams of income through. We've done satellites, we've done cell towers, drop off boxes, coin laundry. There's multitudes of different income streams that you can do, and allows us to really hedge ourselves and keep pace, actually outlasting inflation a year over year. And we hadn't even gone into the depreciation factor. You can actually accelerate depreciation on these communities. We cost seg every single community that we purchase, and by doing that, because of the developments, capital improvements we do on these communities, we're able to offset majority of our gains for the first 2 to 3 years, and that's passed on to all of our investors. So not only our investors, our partners getting the great returns and seeing an impact for their profit, an impact for dollars, not only in their pockets, but for the communities that we acquire. But now they're shielding all income personally on other assets or whatever they have through the depreciation and capex and cost segs that we do on each community. So it's really a twofold thing, actually a threefold thing. So one of just a prime case. This was earlier on, one of my first parks out of the, I think 15 or 16 we've done currently. This was a park that I purchased with zero money down. And this was when I first started this. We purchased this park, I think 8 or 9 years ago. And I had zero cash because was tapped out. I had multifamily, I had duplexes. I had my first little 12-unit mobile home park in Hampton, Virginia, bought off market, seller financed. And I was able to purchase this park at a discount. In fact, this park was so bad off that the city of Newport News, the county, actually had it up for auction, for tax abatement auction. I went under contract, took about 4 months of dealing with this seller and negotiating with them. That I realized under due diligence near the tail end, it was actually set up for auction, and I had to bring a check to close it out. But yeah, that's how bad off it was. It's about 60% occupied, just a dump heap. And we were able to acquire it. The seller held a second position and a third part in a promissory note for us. I was able to get 75% LTV on that, and the seller held 30%. So I got 5% at closing. So at closing, I got a check for about 20 grand. And we had to put no money in. Now we had to put a lot of money to fix it up. And within 21 months, so not even 2 years, 21 months with no money in the deal, we're streamlining the shoestring this thing, skeleton crew, turning as much as we can. Very early on, we went from a purchase of 1.3 to a valuation of 3 million within 21 months with no money down and no money in the deal. We were essentially using cash flow to renovate the community as we owned it. And then we ended up selling it just 2 years later for 3.3. So we made a little over $2 million, not including the cash flow that we had that was really allowing us to grow fairly quickly. It allowed us to have a 9.7 equity multiple on the back end and 107% internal rate of return, which it sounds impossible, but I can show you the numbers. Hands down, one of our favorite. It really put us on the map. We learned a ton. It wasn't until this past year we went the fun route. We acquired all these communities prior, the 8 or 9 communities that we purchased prior, all on our own dime, and working with a few different partners to where we're comfortable enough that hey, we've got a foothold on this thing. We've got a really good niche that we're working here. It's tried and true and proven. We lasted and went through COVID. We've got some other huge sales coming up right now that we were comfortable enough to do the fund, because to me, working with investors who not only put investment in funds in, to me, it's a trust factor. Our partners trust us. They trust me with their hard-earned sweat and hard work, sweat and tears that they worked for to put their money with us, to have that trust. I mean, that's a heavy weight, and didn't take it lightly, and it took us till we were tried and true with many results before we would actually take that leap. And so that was a great turnaround. So we have a 90-day rule. We have a 90-day turnaround. So the first 30 days we enforce cleanups, and you can kind of see on the left here, we install new leases, new rules and regulations. In fact, it's a it's actually a competition to see what rules we have to add in to our rules each year. In fact, I think last year we had to put in that you're not allowed to have donkeys. The year before was goats. The year before that was bounty houses in the middle of the street. So when we buy these communities, they're really they have not a lot of management, and there's a lot of value to be added there, but it does take the work. So it's just interesting to see these continual issues we have to deal with up front, and then once we're in the first 90 days, it's completely resolved. In fact, there was one community that we had. It was one of the larger. It was 185 pads that we purchased. Um, we purchased for 2 million, and then we ended up selling later, 3.5 years later, for 8.8. But we purchased that community. The first 30 days, the first month, we went through 46 30-yard dumpsters of trash, like over a $43,000 trash bill in the first month. But just that one act alone completely changed the mentality of the tenants, could change the community, get rid of it, looked night and day better, and allowed us to have more of a foothold to really imply the proven strategies that we've used. Within the 30 to 60 day mark, the second quarter of 30 to 60-day mark, we're looking for filling out our vacant homes, selling those vacant homes, or getting new homes set up. So we go through the infill lots. We'll have our stub ups for water, stub ups for sewer, electrical set up with a new pedestal. So when that home rolls in, we roll right into it. A lot of times these pedestals originally because they were built mostly in the 70s and 80s, that these communities, the pedestals were 110 amp because they use window units, window HVAC and heating units. However, the brand new homes, they all come with um, forced air and HVAC systems with furnaces and outdoor units. So they require 200 amp service. So we have to update these pedestals and what's great is that increases the value of the community. And that's also a capital expenditure that we can write off against our income. So it's really a threefold. We prefer doing it, and we know it's a good product. We don't have to worry about any kind of issues down the road. And then around a 60 to 90 day adjustment, we're getting rid of any leftover riffraff in the first 30 days. If it's either comply or goodbye. So they either come with us, get with new leases, we'll do background checks, apply by the rules, and we'll work with them. If there's people working, we love working with them. We've provided siding, paint, dumpster service, and anyone that's making an effort, we definitely work with them. We love our families in these communities. They're hardworking people that have been taken advantage of, and they realize they just have an opportunity to need a lot, and we're all for that. But if you're not going to play by the rules and you're going to take advantage of our other tenants that are actually working hard, you're gone. And so we get rid of cliques. We've gotten rid of drug dealers, prostitution, gang members, trafficking of children, you name it. We've dealt with it. And that's how we're able to clean up these entire communities. A lot of these gang members are actually been deported, a lot of MS-13, what have you. And so within that 90 days, we've gone from trash to class. We love what we do. We're very proud of it. And it doesn't take a lot. It really just takes a strong foothold up front. And once the tenants realize that there's someone that actually cares, their value of their homes go up, and they're going to have a livelihood and a quality of life they've never had before. It all comes together, and they'll actually start self-policing. And within 90 to 120 days, it's really just kind of on an autopilot. And again, they're happy to pay more each and every time. So I'll go ahead and I'll take some questions real quick. I know Thomas, you're in here. If you had any questions, jump in. I'll look in the chat and see who else has anything, and then I'll just keep going. But I do have some other questions already. But go ahead.
Yeah, Major. Thanks. Well, my first question is: you're looking to, I mean, maybe just haven't gotten into it. But you're looking to raise a fund to acquire more properties, right? That's your goal here.
Yes. So we have a current fund that's been operating. We launched it back in October for our first acquisition. We've already acquired 6 communities since October. We're raising right now our final raise. We want to get between 1 to 2 more communities to fin out this first portfolio, and then we're going to close this fund, and then we'll open a new one later this summer.
And so how much more do you want to raise before you close?
Sure, sure. Great question, Thomas. So we're going to looking to raise another 2.5 to $3 million
Okay.
within the next 30 days or so. We do have some prior commitments and subscriptions that haven't come in yet, but we do have room left over to finish out this current raise.
Okay. And then looking forward, right? Yeah, how do you go about, I mean, your operations are in South Carolina, Virginia, in sort of the Atlantic coastal area. Is that where you're focused in right now? And how do you go
Yeah,
about
so
finding other potential
yeah.
future
So
opportunities?
we're predominantly in we like red states and we like Southeast and Southern Midwest.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we're predominantly in the North Carolina, South Carolina. We're
Mhm.
working into Florida, and we currently live in Florida. That's why we came down here. It's a big opportunity here. And
Mhm.
Texas. Texas is very pro development, but we
Yep.
like those four states. It doesn't mean to say we won't go outside,
Yep.
but currently with our current portfolio, we've been investing in South Carolina for over 10 years. And
Yeah.
so I know that state like North Carolina, South, we know we've been investing for, we know those states like the back of our hand. In our current
Mhm.
portfolio, all six acquisitions have been in central South Carolina. So all of our
Mhm.
acquisitions have been within an hour and a half of each other drive time. And so our
Mhm.
main goal is to build portfolios in target segment areas of 400 to 500 pads, because when they're that close in a targeted area, it's much easier to sell. And we have other higher end fund operators and also institutional buyers that will buy them and they'll actually bid each other up. And we've had that done
Mhm.
recently. So we want to acquire these communities close together, build a portfolio, and then stabilize it and then sell it. And that doesn't mean we'll go outside of it, but predominantly right now, we're up to just shy of 350 units or 330 units in South Carolina. So one or two acquisitions will be above that 400 unit mark. And that's the goal right now. And that's why we have that little left over, 2.5 to 3 million to raise so we can get those last acquisitions to get above that 400. Then we'll go to a different market.
So I presume there's a size of park community that you don't want to go below. Maybe I'm wrong, but they don't want to go below unless it's adjacent to another park that you have.
You're
Um,
correct.
so you have
Yeah,
some minimum and maximum that you're looking at, right?
yeah, a great question. So we believe just like shopping centers, right? Strip malls.
Yep.
There's always 1 acre, and there's a bunch of other strips beside it, or single
Mhm.
units beside it.
Mhm.
So we did the same thing. So we look between a 70 to 150 or 270 minimum up to 250 unit park. That'll be our
Mhm.
anchor, and then we'll buy the other ones around it, but we won't go below 35 pads on
Mhm.
a site, because after that, it kind of the economies of scale. It's tougher to hire someone on site because it eats in a lot to your profit. So
Mhm.
35 is really our minimum, but we try to be between 40. That's 35 is lowest, and anything above that's fair game. But we always
Mhm.
have 1 acre. So in South Carolina, we have a 104 unit park that's within our drive time, and then we have a few 40 and 50 units around it. And the smallest one we have is a 36, but we're working on some other larger ones. But that's exactly it. So it's kind of think of it as a spider web. You've got your center, and then around it, you can bolt on all the other ones because it's easy to manage. It's there, it's cash flowing, and it's a portfolio that we know that other operators would be happy to purchase because it's just ease of management.
Yeah, so you look at things that have been neglected, right, or poorly operated, come in, enforce the rules, like you said, clean it up, upgrade the electrical, systems, maybe
Mhm.
find some other ways to generate additional revenue, and then fill up the park and sell it. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
and just like I mean, it's the same kind of strategy in any real estate investment. So in multifamily or residential, you want something that has deferred maintenance or needs some renovation to get rents up. It's the same thing. We've just realized in the Southeast and Southern Midwest, the discrepancy between actual lot rents and rents for the homes versus market rents are
Mhm.
so much bigger than everything else in the Northeast and Midwest because it's been picked over a lot. There's such a large gap that allows us to have these really big value adds when we every park that we buy.
And what's the biggest limiting factor for filling up a park? What's the thing the biggest hurdle to overcome?
Uh,
Um,
I would say financing. For new investors, it's financing. For us, is been getting the correct due diligence. But
Mm-hmm.
the biggest factor is the market. So we always do test ads, and so
Mm-hmm.
well, Facebook Marketplace is like direct. It used to be Craigslist, but no one does that anymore.
Yeah.
But Facebook Marketplace is a direct line as the heartbeat for that local market. So we'll
Okay.
put out test ads for these new homes that we're selling, and he'll say, "Hey, here's your payment, your monthly rent. Here's your payment structure. Here's a model that we
Mm-hmm.
usually use." We'll send it out, and if we have more than 10 hits in 7 days, that's a pretty good market. To give you an
Okay.
idea, that 104 unit we have, when we did that test hit, we had 52 hits within 48 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just
Mm-hmm.
shows you, and we strategically look for these areas that are in growth, both in industrial and manufacturing, as well
Mm-hmm.
as we want to be components of the U.S. military bases,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare
Mm-hmm.
centers, and in colleges and education universities.
Mm-hmm. So, and so, what percentage of the mobile home the park occupants own their own homes versus rent a home?
Yeah, so that depends. Each community, just like with any property, has its own, you know, quirks.
Yeah.
So it can vary. When we acquire, one we just did about 3 weeks ago was about 70% rentals. But we're
Mm-hmm.
converting them all over to RTOs, or rent to owns, or tenant owned
Mm-hmm.
homes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are all tenant owned homes, but there's a lot of vacancy. Just
Mm-hmm.
each one varies. But I can
Okay.
tell you that with park on, so they're considered park on homes, POH,
Mm-hmm.
and these are homes that are rentals. The more
Mm-hmm.
of those that you have, the harder it is to get financing, and because of that, we can get better deal structures because they're not
Mm-hmm.
able to sell it on the market as easy as if it's all tenant owned homes.
And what's the profile of the people that have been investors with you in the past or are currently investing?
Yes, so it's investors that are looking to diversify their portfolio, but also shield a lot of their tax exposure, as well
Mm-hmm.
as get great returns for impact on communities. So, not we can deliver the same returns. There's plenty of other funds out there that have the same kind of offerings, but we're really changing hundreds and thousands of people's lives at every community that we purchase, and you're
Mm-hmm.
also getting the accelerated tax benefits that you're not going to get on multifamily or other commercial space, because we're
Mm-hmm.
able to accelerate the community itself, but also other items with the capital expenditures, just because it's a very unique niche when it comes to that. And because of that, there's
Okay.
other streams of income too, because a lot of these parks were developed prior to 1976. And 1976 was when HUD was developed. So there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't any really zoning ordinances developed back then. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
been upgraded, all these other, but parks have always stayed the same. Because of that, it's extremely hard to find them because they're zoned in either I-5, R-5, M2, B2. They're all
Mm-hmm.
over the map with zoning. And because of that, and because it was built prior to 76 and hasn't changed in likeness, we're
Mm-hmm.
able to go around, surpass ordinances, and get cell towers, satellite leases, coin laundry, unique
Mm-hmm.
items that are not available to others, just because it's kind of like an outlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have for right now. Questions?
Excellent. All right, let me go back here, see if there's anything in the chat. All right, everybody's quiet today. All right. So we talked about that. And so here's another thing I realized, Thomas, is that early on in my career, there's a lot of especially with COVID happened, everybody kind of jumped in the bag. James Oliver video that he made really exploded the whole market just because people realized it. And then during COVID, mobile home parks had the highest rental returns than any other asset during COVID, and had the least amount of turnover post COVID. Another big item too is that multifamily in the United States, the average turnover rate annually is 47%. So almost half
Mm-hmm.
of your units are being turned over year, where the
Yeah.
average turnover rate for a mobile home park is less than 10%. So we literally have families come in, they'll buy one home, they'll pay it off, they'll go buy another home and move a family member into the other home. They split their costs, or they'll rent out that home. Now they have to go through us first, make sure we do a background check and leases with them, but they'll rent that home and they'll have income that they've never had before. So that's why we have these tenants that come in, they never really leave. And to move
Yeah.
a mobile home, manufactured home, is between $10,000 to $15,000, and not only that, you have to have a space to move it to. So usually,
Hmm.
when tenants come in, they either stay there for extremely long term, or to sell it, or finance it to someone else, uh, to increase their income level on a
Yeah.
monthly basis.
Yeah, so you mentioned being close to military bases or universities. So there you've got, yeah, younger singles or couples, but I would imagine there are a lot of older, even retirees, looking for, a community as well, right? That go the mobile home route.
Exactly. And in fact, Florida has the most of them than anywhere. I think Scottsdale, Arizona is really well, California.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Hmm.
so they're on a more fixed income. And what we realize is with those, there's a lot more ordinances and regulations on those communities because they're protecting senior citizens. And a lot of them
Hmm.
have fixed income, which was helpful. However, when you go to do
Yeah.
increases or anything like that, they can be
Yeah.
a little tricky because they are pretty subsidized on their income. So
Hmm.
we prefer all family communities, but it's not to say we won't do those in Florida. But our currently what we like is what we do is all family communities. It allows us that great ability to expand and get those big income producing changes relatively quickly with a lot less regulation too. We don't like regulation. That's why we prefer these red states, as we
Yeah.
spoke about earlier, very landlord friendly.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense. Makes sense.
so with our what we offer and through this our fund is that you're able to get passive income. You're getting great tax shield benefits. It's an exclusive type of real estate, meaning that the terminology, the finance, and the DCR, the debt coverage ratios, the way you evaluate is completely different. The way you manage, especially is completely different than what you do in multifamily or other retail or
Mhm.
industrial investments. And we've seen a lot of people come over from multifamily, a lot of these finance guys that, come in, buy it all up, think they can, and they just implode because the customer is completely different. And what makes us a little unique too is that my wife and I, the first home we bought after we were married was a mobile home. And so
Mhm.
we've lived and breathed and understand our tenants like nobody else, and
Mhm.
that gives us a leg up in having that experience. And because of that, terminology and all that's different, it really limits the pool of new investors because it's a lot of education to learn, but you got to learn on
Mhm.
your own dime because there's not a lot of there's some courses. There's Mobile Home University, they do a great job, but there's courses and books out there. But it's not like when you go to flip a house where there's a seminar every weekend or any time of day.
Yeah.
It's really unique asset, and because of that, and also you got to deal with titles and it's personal property. So you got to
Yeah.
educate the banks, especially regional banks, don't have that understanding. And so it's really limited the buyer pool, which allows us to even get better deals because there's not many outlets for these value add owners to come through. Um, so yeah, I have a podcast. This is part of it now. We do a lot of social as well. You can set up a strategy call with me. Actually, that's on the next page. I
Mhm.
wrote a book recently, Thomas, and everyone else that's listening. I went actually international bestseller in Australia. I don't know why they like mobile home parks, but they like them. So it's a great book to kind of give a little more background where we are. This QR code in the middle is for my AI. It's literally me, but in AI. I upload these videos every week
Uh-huh.
into it, all of my information, the book itself, and it'll answer questions about mobile home parks and our current fund that you may have. You can actually speak to it through your computer or your phone. It'll actually speak to you back to you using my voice. And then
Mhm.
here on the
Mhm.
right is a QR code. Sign up if you guys can to all of our socials. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and this QR code will also take you to my Calendly link, and that'll allow you to
Mhm.
schedule a 30 to 45-minute phone call where we can go through everything in particular, go over offering questions that you may have, and really just get to know us better. But we could blow up and do all that. We're not. We're looking to keep a consortium of a group of investors that we really like and trust and build a relationship long term. We're not
Mhm.
in a pump and dump. There's a lot of people that just get in, take your fees, and sayonara, pass it off to
Mhm.
the next department. You never hear from them again. We're not
Mhm.
in that game. We want long term building relationships. Majority of people that have invested with us now, I've been working with for over 8 to 10 years. And we're
Mhm.
looking to expand that with like minded people. And again, it's not about just the income. It's not just about the profits. You can do that in multiple assets. It's about the being recession resistant. So you're providing security for your portfolio. It's about getting the tax benefits, and it's about having someone that actually cares that's on call that you get a hold of and have those things turn around relatively quickly. So yeah, if you guys follow us, like and subscribe. We're on YouTube as well, and I'll be doing these calls every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay.
Appreciate you joining. I'm going to go ahead and turn the live stream and recording off, and then I'll take more questions.